get ready for the biggest event of the series. Diplomatic relations are once again in tatters as countries are close to tearing each other apart in a war of metal-munching mayhem. That's right, folks. It's our second World Championships. 16 machines will be taken to the arena to take home the title of Robot Wars World Champion. And it's going to be one chaotic showdown. So let's head to the Battleboard and see how it all looks. The second World Championships, I've been looking forward to this. The flipper of Nexus from Northern Ireland taking on the spinning flywheel blade of Siamese twins from the Philippines. The spinning blade and ramming plow of Endgame from New Zealand taking on the flipper of Whale from Libya. The spinning bar of Shamrock from Ireland taking on the lifting spikes of King Buxton 20 representing Japan. The spinning flywheel of Supernova representing Sri Lanka taking on the spinning flywheel of Tiger representing Brazil. The spinning blade of Ribbon from South Korea taking on the spiked axe of Bastion from Italy. Nightmare with the spinning flywheel from Canada taking on General Thompson with the crushing teeth from America. Tornado with the interchangeable weaponry from England taking on the full-body spinner of Night Hammer from Israel. And then Pyramid with the spinning ankh of Egypt taking on the spinning blades of Zag from Palestine. Let international turmoil begin! Representing Northern Ireland, Nexus Flipper. Have they managed to repair the damage dealt to them from the Zonk in the Commonwealth Carnage a few weeks ago? If they have, then the quick drive will give them quite an edge as well as being very strong at pushing its opponents, and the weapon should help overturn them and even throw them out of the arena, as well as help self-right. But last we saw, the weapon had been torn off, and the machine in the pit in flames. Let's hope they brought spare motors and everything, otherwise, they may not even be able to compete. Representing the Philippines, Siamese twins, Spinner! An invertible octagon-shaped design with a spinning flywheel in the very center of the machine. Actually really impressive with how they've managed to even build this. It's the team's first ever build, and I have to say it's pretty bloody impressive. Lots of props to the team for managing to build it the way they have successfully, but they do have a slight ground clearance issue.
Roboteers, stand by.
Our first fight of the second World Championships with Nexus from Northern Ireland, the CO2 powered flipper, and Siamese twins from the Philippines with that big ring spinning flywheel.
3, 2, 1, activate.
Again, very impressed. They managed to build that thing, the team's first ever machine, and it's already seeming to be causing problems for Nexus as something's come off. And I'm wondering where that's from. I think that bit that just came off then. Yes, you can just see a lip of the flipper's gone. Now, they still have 2 extra lips, so that shouldn't overly affect them, although Nexus is in trouble, and that's really going to affect them. Look at that! Underneath, and flips not over, and Siamese twins took advantage and smashed off a side of the flipper of Nexus, and that will cause problems, as will that little plastic panel that's limping on the side there. But with the left side of the flipper now fully exposed, they will have to do their damnedest to keep that protected, which they didn't do on that occasion. Siamese twins, right now, very much the underdogs, but of course it's quite the upset. And are very, very close to going down the pit there. That was very close. And Nexus could have just snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. Siamese twins. I'm seeing one other problem with Siamese twins. They cannot properly drive like that. Pinging off from the spike, the arena spike, and now Nexus, off comes a wheel! Well, I said that side protection was key, and with it gone, Nexus now, well, I don't think there was much they could do. Into the pit, and, well, Siamese Twin seems to have followed in. Not fully. They're just hanging on, but the wheels are over the pit. Nexus keeping them up, out, but it's Nexus crashing out very early. I guess they hadn't completely repaired. They did their best. They repaired more than what I thought they would, but Nexus, they're gone. And Siamese Twins, off to a very strong start in this competition. They go through. Next up, Endgame and Whale. Representing New Zealand, Endgame, Spinner. They've come runner-up in the main competition and are one of the favorites in this special event of the series. The drive is very strong and the blade spinning at 4,500 revs per minute seems a lot stronger than it was in the last two wars. However, the wheels are quite exposed and the reliability of the Shremek is quite suspect. Representing Libya, Whale Flipper. We saw the machine back in the last wars. It didn't last very long. The 3mm aluminium armor seemed rather durable, though that never went up against a spinner, or at least a seriously effective one. The CO2 Flipper might finally get to show off what the machine can actually do. We know it can self-right, but why have you returned with your wheels exposed?
Robot ears, stand by.
Endgame, our Series 3 runners-up with the front plow and the 30-kilo spinning blade. And Whale from Libya, who we saw back in Series 2 with their CO2-powered flipper.
3, 2, 1, activate.
How well will Whale stand up to the spinning blade of Endgame? Well, it doesn't have the great power, the great pushing power Endgame does. And what's that on the floor there? I think that's a part of Whale's wheel. Is that it for Whale? Are they done already? It was very quick. One of Endgame's quicker takeouts. Off comes one of the front armor panels. That will cause problems for Whale going forward. But how much of a problem is that really going to be, I wonder? Endgame, another strike, flinging them away towards the flame pit. Whale, not much they can really do, and there isn't much now. Up and over, and their top panel's gone as well. Look at this attack here. Up and over, and their top panel split in two as well. So, Whale in real trouble. They're stuck on their flipping arm. And with that panel now gone, the electronics are severely exposed. They can't self-right as we just saw, although they have landed on their front. Which gives Endgame a better shot. I think they just shredded the flipper they have. Oh, poor Whale. Well, to be fair, it was great having a Libyan machine back on Robot Wars, even if it wasn't in the arena long. Poor Whale, down the pits. That's the end of Whale. They're gone, and it's Endgame going through. And a much better performance than what they gave us in the Commonwealth Carnage. A much better performance this time around. And they definitely appear to be back on top form. And are looking like they could do very well in this competition as they throw Whale out of it. Next up, it's Shamrock and King Buxton 20. Representing Ireland, Shamrock Spinner. Of all the places to come up with an idea for a robot, well, I guess I can think of weirder places, and considering the local pastime in Ireland, that actually checks out. A small body running on two wheels that can flip and flop over on with a big spinning bar to smack and batter the opposition. huge cast legs on the bottom and on top help not only keep the machine tilted upwards, but also allow for the weapon to actually spin and do some damage. However, that does mean that they are left with a huge ground clearance, and their rear wheels are pretty exposed.
Representing Japan, King Buxton 20, Lifter.
Natsuko Hori, whose team captain Simon Harrison's wife originally hails from Japan, and Simon wanted to represent her home. The lifting forked spikes have a level of strength behind them, as we saw them throw St. Aggro out of the arena in the main competition, and can double up as ramming spikes. The invertible design also makes knocking the machine out really difficult, but the exposed wheels leave a huge weak spot for the machine, as does the machine's armor, which isn't all that strong compared to metallic armor other machines enter with.
Robot ears, stand by.
Shamrock, with the spinning bar and the flip-flop design. Very interesting design, that, I have to say. And King Buxton 20, built here in England, but representing Japan with the front lifting spikes.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
And has the stronger drive and the quicker drive, it definitely seems, as Shamrock's already overturned! But a wheel's gone! A wheel of King Buxton 20 is gone! Right from the start! And that will cause problems, although doesn't seem to be causing a whole lot of problems. The sheer driving power of King Buxton 20 enough to cause problems for Shamrock. And Shamrock overturned onto the side, while the top Lexan panel on King Buxton 20's peeled off. So now the electronics are completely exposed. Meanwhile, Shamrock stuck on their side. They cannot get back from there. And I'm safe to say that this will be Shamrock's immobilization. They cannot move. Oh, hello. Now righted. Interesting. Took you too long. I'm pretty sure you will be counted out, but judges haven't called for cease, so we will continue going with King Buxton 20 driving over Shamrock. And once again, trying to get a good grip on Shamrock. Look at that though, the spikes on King Buxton 20's weapons are gone, so now those spikes have no power. All they're good for is pure battering rams, but there's no damage factor, there's no lifting well, there's a bit of lifting factor, but well, Shamrock may have the more deadly weapon. And it's safe to say King Buxton 20 has the more effective drive, as it's now pushing Shamrock into those spikes. And King Buxton 20, something else has come off one of the wheels. And now another wheel's gone, the other front wheel, and that will impede their drive. Unless, oh Shamrock, what have you done? No! Shamrocked into the pit, and that was a bit of poor driving there. Poor Shamrock. Well, we'll call that unfortunate, shall we? Shamrock trying to get themselves out of the pit. It's not gonna happen. You are well and truly gone. King Buxton 20, they grow through, and good grief do they have repairs to make. And I think Shamrock could have been quite the contender going forward in this, but sadly, they're now in the pit. Next up, Supernova and Tiger.
Representing Sri Lanka, Supernova, Spinner.
Invertible and armed with a lethal and powerful flywheel. Sadly, we never really got to see any of that in the main competition like we did in Battle of the YouTubers on the main channel. The drive is quick and the blade is very destructive, at least when they properly operate. The only physical issue the machine has is the exposed wheels, but given its performance in the main competition, not a lot of hopes for the machine, sadly.
representing Brazil, Tiger, Spinner.
A big, long body looking almost like Nightmare from Battleboard, who have also entered the Second World Championships for Canada. Two-wheel drive and armed with a very big flywheel, as well as a curved bar which is meant to help the machine right itself if flipped over. The machine could do very well in this competition, just as long as they are able to protect their exposed wheels.
Roboteers, stand by.
Supernova, with the two-wheel drive and the vertical flywheel. And Tiger from Brazil, with the giant horizontal flywheel. Or is that the other way around?
3, 2, 1.
Honestly, I can't really tell which is which. All I know is that both flywheels and also Tiger is in trouble as Supernova's caused them to go onto the side. Tiger's giant flywheel helps them come back. Supernova trying to be very careful and getting Tiger towards the pit. And that's Tiger down. Oh, they've bounced back out. Look at this. That's interesting. Supernova pushes Tiger towards the pit. Their own weapon takes them in and whoops, up into the air and back out. And now Tiger is stuck and they're teetering and tottering. Their weapons causing them to fall in, and they will fall in eventually. Down they go. And that's the end. Oh! Bounces back out though. It's quite interesting, that flywheel, as it just clips onto the pit and again launching themselves into the air and getting them back out. Meanwhile, is Supernova alright? I am not too sure. Tiger isn't. They've caught themselves on the pit again and in they go. And now they just keep driving back in. Oh, and now they're in the pit and up and over. And they can't come back from that one, I don't think. Not if their blade is spinning the wrong direction, and not if it's not spinning at all. Their weapon's stuck. They're stuck. They're in the pit. They're out. And it's Supernova going through. Maybe that's why they weren't moving, because they knew they had this in the bag and they didn't really need to do anything. At least that's what I think was the reason. But anyway, Supernova through, and it's Tiger for Brazil crashing out. Next up, Ribbon and Bastion.
Representing South Korea, Ribbon, Spinner.
A low body four-wheel drive box on with a big spinning bar, and looking at it more closely, I think it can actually adjust its own height. That'd be pretty impressive if that's the case. The side skirts make getting underneath the sides very difficult to do. The rear and front aren't, however, which they'll have to be careful of. And the wheels are a bit exposed too.
Representing Italy, Bastion, Axbot.
Yeah, I can agree that it looks like Blacksmith was the inspiration for the machine. It's quite fast, and the high-pressured spiked axe will cause some serious damage combined with its strong drive, and the axe can also help the machine self-right. But the armor isn't as thick as most of the machines in the competition, and the weapon might be a bit too powerful, perhaps.
Roboteers, stand by.
Ribbon with the big spinning bar and the side skirts. And Bastion, the Italian blacksmith, as we call it down in the pits, with the high-pressured spiked axe.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
How will this go? Well, Ribbon already catching some air from the first collision, and Bastion now trying to right themselves. Can they? Yes, they can, and I think the spiked tip of the axe is gone as well. It's no longer there, so that could seriously impede the axe's effectiveness. Doesn't seem to be affecting the drive, however, because that drive on Bastion is quite impressive. You can just see there's a missing panel, a missing armor panel on Bastion as they free themselves from the blade of Ribbon. Ribbon trying to be a major problem, but not working, and down the pit, and that's a great push and a great victory there for Bastion. Well, did your actions launch you skyward? That was brilliant. Bastion wins the fight. Goes, right, I'm done here. I'm gonna go visit the moon. That is just brilliant. That's a great way of celebrating. That is just fantastic. I don't think I've ever seen something like that before. But Bastion, they go through. Ribbons out. Next up, Nightmare and General Chomsalot.
Representing Canada, Nightmare, Spinner.
The machine had been an ever-present in BattleBots and had even taken part in the World Championships, as well as both Long Beach and Las Vegas 1999. They may not have had the greatest levels of success, but they didn't do poorly. They were extremely deadly and feared with the size of that flywheel, and I don't blame them. But the big exposed wheels are a major weak spot on the machine, and there's not really a streamhack.
Representing the United States of America, General Chomsalot, Control Bot.
A similar design to two previous machines they've competed with in the past, those machines being Jawbreaker and Jawbreaker's Revenge from Robotica, and Nasty Overbite from BattleBots. This machine basically works the same way, gnawing jaws to clamp its foes and drag them around, can run both ways up, and has big exposed wheels.
Roboteers, stand by.
Nightmare with the ginormous flywheel and the very, 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 very thin body. And General Chomsalot with the big two wheels, the incredible design, and the big gnawing teeth.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
I think it's also the quicker, definitely quicker off the mark. But that flywheel of Nightmare seems to be causing problems and they're throwing themselves over. Meanwhile, General Chomsalot hops over the bed, only just driven into it. Well, that was over in, what was it, like 13 seconds? Look at this. They've just hopped over the pit as Nightmare threw themselves over. And then all of a sudden, whoops. Driven themselves into the pit, and Nightmare gets a rather seemingly easy victory. And yeah, I got nothing else to say to that. General Chomsalot, sorry boys, you're out. What a dreadful bit of driving that was. General Chomsalot's out, Nightmare goes through. I think that settles the fight between Canada and America. Next up, Tornado and Night Terror.
Representing England, Tornado, Rambot.
Brute force and speed are the main key weapons of Tornado. Whatever attachment they have is just an added bonus. The machine runs at 36 volts, making it one of the quickest in the field, and also a serious force to be reckoned with. But the exposed wheels are a problem, and it's very susceptible to flippers.
Representing Israel, Night Terror, Spinner.
Surprised they were even able to find time to build this considering what's going on. Well, I guess it's a good thing no one on the team are soldiers. A four-wheel drive full-body spinner with the main goal to give their foes nightmares. Did nobody tell the team that only about 2% of the team members are actually 5? Full-body spinners have proven to be very deadly, but they also aren't the greatest and easiest to control.
Roboteers, stand by.
Tornado with the front wedge attachment and the brute force ramming power, and Night Terror and the Israelis with the full body spinner along with control
3,
issues.
2, 1. Activate.
Don't forget, full body spinners do have that control issue, and Tornado already smashing Night Terror into the wall, and have also already lost a big chunk of their wedge, and they've also lost a tire. So that'll affect Tornado's drive. Meanwhile, Night Terror, they may not be in complete control. Oh, the other tire's gone now. And another slamming. Oh, and out goes Night Terror. Just as the tire pops out, look at this. A final charge from Tornado into the wall. And it sends Night Terror on a one-way trip to the grave. And down the pit and out. A great effort there from Tornado to stay in this. And I think had this gone the whole distance, they would have been in major trouble. But it's Tornado going through. Again, had this gone the entire distance, I think Night Terror would have come out victorious. Unfortunately, they're in the pit. They're out. Next up, Pyramid and Zag.
Representing Egypt, Pyramid Spinner.
The team's done a lot better in the main competition than they have in the past two wars, and I think they might actually do Egypt proud in this competition. The spinning Ankh is a deadly force to be reckoned with, and the drive is much more effective. But as we've seen in the main competition, the Ankh has flown off on contact with anyone that comes into contact with it, or by colliding into the arena wall, and after that, leaves them extremely exposed to being flipped and no way of self-righting.
Representing Palestine, Zag Spinner.
Built by a group of friends in Leeds wanting to represent Palestine in the arena and claim that there is no defeating it. Heard that before. The front wedge leads to two spinning bars, which will cause double the damage. However, I don't think the blades are big enough to help the machine right itself.
Robot ears, stand by.
Pyramid with the spinning Ankh. That has actually been very effective in the main competition. And Zag, the Leeds team representing Palestine with the two small spinning bars.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Oh, and very quick off the mark as well. And nearly down the pit. They're both very near that pit. You might want to get away from there, guys. And Pyramid sent through the air courtesy of Zag. And Zag, very quick and nippy. It's quite impressive. And very dogged and aggressive. It's not giving Pyramid much chance to really come into play. And as we've seen before as well, I should point out that Ankh, while it's spinning, it does cause issues for the drive of Pyramid. Meanwhile, Zag's thrown themselves up and over. Well, I don't know how you've done that, as they've been flung into the wall now. And there's something wrong with Zag. They're only driving on one side. One side's working, the other is not. What's that on the floor as Pyramid goes flying through the air again? And now, Zag thrown into the wall again. And I don't think there's any movement. Oh, is there? Actually, I think I know what that piece on the floor is. I think that's a piece of Zag's wedge. And another attack, and down into the pit goes Zag. I thought that was gonna happen. Well done, Pyramid. Wasn't easy. Zag gave them a good run for their money. But it's Zag crashing out and going home early. And it's Pyramid taking another win under their belt and going through to the second World Championship quarterfinals. Poor Zag, I wonder what went wrong. I think the batteries died, but Zag, sadly, they crash out into the pit. They are out, and it's Egypt and Pyramid through. And this is how the quarterfinals look. So it's Bastion in Italy against Tornado in England. Supernova will be taking on Pyramid. Endgame will be taking on Nightmare. But first, it's the Philippines with Siamese twins taking on the Japanese and King Buxton 20.
Robot ears, stand by.
Siamese twins with the big spinning blade that ripped apart Nexus. And King Buxton 20 with the front lifting forks. And have they managed to repair the serious damage dealt to them in their fight against the Irish machine Shamrock, I wonder?
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Well, we're about to find out. King Buxton 20. Haven't lost the wheel yet, and I'm now slamming in, and I've lost the wheel. The wheel's gone. The same wheel that came off in the fight with Shamrock has been ripped away. And Siamese twins, spinning around a bit aimlessly, doesn't know what to do, stuck on the spikes, and now spun away again. Coming in, and I think I've done extra damage. That was a chain that just came off of King Buxton 20. And, ooh! Now what was that just come off, I wonder? King Buxton 20. It's the second spinner they're up against, and they are in trouble. How are they going to deal with them? Siamese twins spins away, colliding with the wall, and now off comes the wheel! But Siamese twins in the pit! From that final collision, the spike flicks them up and over. Look at this! The collision knocks the wheel off, but it sends them cascading into the pit of oblivion. And that's the... I don't know what that was, but that was fantastic. A shame to see the Philippines go out of the stage, but it's King Buxton 20 going through. That's one way of ending the fight. You've missed a bracket for King Buxton, dude. Oh, for Pete's sakes, that's another screw up. Anyway, let's ignore that. Next up, Endgame and Nightmare.
Roboteers, stand by.
Endgame. Our runners up with the front spinning blade, and the Canadian machine Nightmare with its gigantic flywheel.
3, 2,
Biggest blade, I think, in the entire Robot Wars competition this series, probably even bigger than that of 259, and immediately causing problems. They're now going up into the air, and of course Endgame to go up and over. Endgame fight themselves, and up comes the flywheel. The flywheel's gone. That one attack, look at this. Up and over goes Endgame. They come back, and then they charge in. Off comes the flywheel, and up and over goes Nightmare. And they cannot right themselves. And with that, they will be going home. Well, after that bit of damage, they'll probably be going home now. There's no coming back for Nightmare. Endgame will be going through, and Nightmare will be going out. They're out now! At the arena, from the center of the arena floor. That is one of the brutalest ways for Endgame to finish their opponent. Look at this, the center of the floor. They come in with a good charge, and bang, out they go. And that's the end of Nightmare. Endgame parking up where they started, brutally through to the Second World Championship semi-finals. I've said it before and I'll say it again. They have become extremely lethal this series. And this fight further cements that fact as Nightmare gets shredded and catapulted out the arena. Grief. Next up, Supernova and Pyramid.
Roboteers, stand by.
Supernova with the spinning flywheel representing Sri Lanka, and the Egyptians Pyramid with the spinning Ankh and the good drive.
3, 2, 1.
Well, when their Ankh's gone anyways. Spinning up to speed now, and a slap wall courtesy of Supernova. And something's come off of Supernova, as is something else. I think that's part of the tire. There's a top panel missing from Supernova, and Supernova nearly down the pit and out. Supernova now losing another piece of tire. Part of the wheel is now gone, and I think there is a problem for Supernova. I think that wheel just splintered. And I don't think they have full control of the drive. The Ankh's gone! The Ankh's gone again! Look at this! down to the wall, and off it goes. And now, their weapon is no more. Meanwhile, Supernova, I think are in trouble. They're not moving. And I'm wondering if something's happened to the batteries or if they've taken too much damage from the yank. I don't think it matters, because Pyramid's about to throw them down the pit and out, like so. Out goes Supernova in this competition. And it's Pyramid going through for Egypt to the semi-finals, despite not having a weapon. But a great performance from them nonetheless. Just like we got from them in the main competition. And also like the main competition, their ant kept flying off then as well. But they're through, Supernova, they're out. Next up, Bastion and Tornado.
Roboteers, stand by.
Bastion with the spiked hammer and blacksmith looking design. And Tornado, the powerful rampart, now with their front spike attachment on this time
3,
around.
2, 1, activate.
First time we've actually seen that spike attachment into the spinning desk. Oh, that wedge! What was that? Look at this, that's the power of that hammer on Bastion that sends them both into the air. Both landing inside the arena. As I mentioned before, that weapon on Bastion's very powerful. A lot of power behind it. A bit too much power, I think. But great power. Actually able to outpush Tornado. Or is Tornado outpushing Bastion? Doesn't matter. Bastion in the vent. And Tornado's on top. Well. It's seemingly. Oh, Tornado's free. And Bastion nearly freed out of the pit. Oh, they're out! Brilliant! And they self-right too! Look at this! Bastion, they just reversed into the pit! Tornado lands on top, they can't move. They're stuck. And you think at this point, it's over. That Bastion's out and it's Tornado through, but no! Bastion fires the weapon, gets Tornado away. They almost come out the pit, but they end up back in there. They fire the weapon again, and now land outside the pit, freeing themselves, and also self-righting themselves as well. That is a very powerful weapon, and a very impressive machine as it's being pushed now by Tornado. Spike hasn't really caused as much effectiveness as they'd have liked. Maybe using that was a poor design, as was this, to get on top of Bastion, be pushed into the pit, and Tornado can't escape the pit. Bastion can, but the Tornado machine cannot, as Bastion spins in the light in celebration as they progress through to the semi-finals and fling themselves over and self-right too. Bastion will be going through the semi-finals to join Pyramid, Endgame, and King Buxton 20. Tornado sadly crashes out for England. They're trying though. They're trying to get out of the pit, but I don't think it's gonna work. And Bastion, Bastion just giving them a nudge, and ends up in the pit themselves as well. Oh, is Bastion now gonna free themselves? Nope, they're going to just free themselves and leave Tornado stranded. That was just mean and pointless, really, but Tornado, they're out. Bastion, they go through. And it is quite a shame and quite a surprise to see England crash out at this stage. But that's the result. Tornado in the pit and out. It's Bastion for Italy going through. And this is how the semi-finals looks, with Pyramid from Egypt taking on Endgame from New Zealand. A great grudge match that's going to be. But first up, we've got King Buxton 20 of Japan taking on the Italians and Bastion for the first round of the semi-finals.
Roboteers, stand by.
King Buxton 20 where the lifting fork spikes after major repairs from Siamese twins. And Bastion with the high-powered hammer after a famous victory against Tornado, and after an impressive display of getting out of the pit.
1. Activate.
How will this go, I wonder? Well, King Buxton 20 already underneath Bastion, and Bastion nearly went out the arena there. So, there is a downside to their high-powered weapon. They can send themselves out the arena while also flinging each other up into the air as well. And Bastion... well, that was not great, was it? Not the greatest of driving. On the edge of the pit. And King Buxton 20 to give them the nudge, and down they go into the pit. But are they out? I don't think so. We've seen their party trick before. Will we see it here again? There goes their weapon, and they're up and out the arena, out of the pit. I mean, out of the arena. I don't think so. Not yet. Anyways, Bastion driving too far over to the edge of the pit and getting stuck on it. In comes King Buxton 20 with a final nudge, and down they go. Ordinarily, that would be the end of it, but Bastion has a very unique weapon, a very powerful weapon that throws them up into the air and helps them get out of the pit while doing several somersaults as well. King Buxton 20 up and over, and now righted with a little bit of help from Bastion, driving around them having a merry dance, and down the pit again goes Bastion, but once again out of the pit now, and I'm now... okay, I think Bastion has a love affair with the pit all of a sudden. They're in the pit again. And, well, we know what's going to happen. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Almost. Hang on. Wait. Hang on. Let me get the right angle. There we go. Bastion's very entertaining. Sorry, is this robot combat or is this a breakdancer competition? I honestly have no idea at this point. Bastion's entertaining me. King Buxton 20, Bastion into the air, and out the arena! And that's what I thought was going to happen eventually with their weapon! They can get themselves out of the pit with their weapon, but they can't if they fling themselves into the air and out of the arena. That's the end of Bastion! Out of the competition! Out go the Italians! But a great performance, it has to be said, a very entertaining one. Commiserations to seeing Bastion crash out here. But it's King Buxton 20 for Japan through to the grand finals. Hope to see Bastion back again in Robot Wars some other day. But for now, it's King Buxton 20 going through, and next up, Endgame and Pyramid.
Roboteers, stand by.
Endgame with the spinning blade and the front plow representing New Zealand, and Pyramid with their spinning ankh representing Egypt. New Zealand and Egypt, Endgame and Pyramid together again. We saw this before in the first World Championships back when Pyramid went by Tomb of Despair, and it didn't exactly go well. In fact, they barely got off the mark, really, for one collision from Endgame, who proceeded to tear them apart, decimate their weapon, which honestly wasn't all that effective to begin with. But Endgame ripped into them, tore part after part off the flipper, and there was no life in Tomb of Despair. And one push towards the pit, and down they were gone. Egypt crashed out, and Endgame went through. This is a grudge match.
2, 1. Activate.
What lessons has Pyramid learnt from their last encounter? Well, Endgame coming in, and up and over! Off comes the yank, and up and over goes Pyramid! And Endgame, once again, about to send Egypt out of the competition, down the pit, and they're not coming back from that, falling just like they did in the last championships. They this was the attack, up through the air, off came the yank, up and over went Pyramid. No self-rating mechanism on board, they could not get away. And one final nudge, and down and out went Pyramid. Out of the competition goes the Egyptians. They did a lot better this time around, however, it has to be said. The crash out of the semi-finals, that's no sulking matter. But it's Endgame going through to face King Buxton 20 and the Japanese in the Second World Championships Grand Finals. But no disgrace for Pyramid in Egypt reaching the semi-finals. They did brilliantly, but this is where they crash out. It's Endgame going through. This fight didn't last long, did it? Let's be real. But this is the final showdown. It's Japan once again in the finals with King Buxton 20 and Endgame from New Zealand. This is the final showdown.
Roboteers, stand by.
This is it. The Second World Championships Grand Finals. King Buxton 20 for Japan with the front lifting forked spikes. And for New Zealand, Endgame with the front plow and their lethal spinning blade.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Who will come out as our Second World Championship Grand Champion? Endgame chasing around King Buxton 20. King Buxton 20 trying to look for a way of getting around without encountering that blade. I don't think it's going to work, and it won't now. Oh, front wheels are gone. Another spike's have been shattered, as is part of the armor. And this, I think, is going to be the end for King Buxton 20 unless something miraculous happens like that. And King Buxton 20 is able to push Endgame down to the pit. I don't think they're going to be able to, though. They tried, and they seem desperate to try. Something else has come off. I think that was part of the weapon. Oh. And now King Buxton 20 being bashed and battered, and, well, I don't think King Buxton 20 has any way of coming back. They don't now. Off comes another wheel. And I think this is the end for King Buxton 20. It is now. Look at that. Battered and blasted and on fire as well. And I think been separated from their under plate, the bottom base plate, from that one attack. And I don't think that you can see they're separate. And I don't think Endgame. Well, the base plate's now gone flying out. And, well, King Buxton 20 is just lying there on fire. And Endgame have once again brutalized their opposition. They brutalized Nightmare early on, and they've once again brutalized King Buxton 20 while driving repeatedly into the wall for some reason. I don't know why, and there's no real points. It's Endgame. Well, that's probably the better way to end it, honestly, down the pit and out. But Endgame were the champions of the Second World Championship. Commiserations to King Buxton 20, but they'll sadly have to settle for second place. They may be in the pit, but King Buxton 20 completely destroyed and immobilized and crashed out. Well done to Endgame as they take home the title of World Champion for New Zealand, and they will definitely become an even bigger favorite coming into the next wars. But until then, take care, and I'll see you next time. Farewell.